Okay, so this section of the course is called Following the Analytics. This section really focuses on social media analytics and how you can use the data that you get from your different social media platforms and use it to your advantage and figure out what you're struggling at, what you and what you can improve on, and also what you're doing well at, and it help figure out a lot of various different things. It's not just a bunch of different graphs and numbers. It's actually very important. So let's go over some of the things that I will be talking about. So the first thing is, what is social media analytics? This will just kind of be talking about just what it is in general, give a definition, and just talking about the basics. Next will be terminology, just some important definitions that I feel like are important to know when you are looking at your social media analytics, and just knowing what that stuff means if you ever see it when you're dealing with that kind of stuff. After that is the benefits of social media analytics. What can you gain from it? And just things like that, ways you can improve, just know how you're doing in general over and things like that. Then after that, I will be talking about charts and graphs, like different ones that you will kind of see on different dashboards and stuff, and just kind of examples of how you can use those graphs and, um, you know how they make sense, for people who aren't the best at interpreting graphs and charts. And then the last thing I will be talking about is interpreting dashboards. And because, dashboards, they can really have a lot of stuff. And I think just knowing, what some dashboards look like and what you can gain from them and things like that, um, is really important. So first, let's start off with what is social media analytics. Social media analytics is the process of analyzing data from various social media networks. These are, pretty much any social media platform that companies use, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, um, you know, the known platforms that we all know. Um, so they also use metrics such as likes, comments, number of followers you have, and like the number of impressions you get to make data driven decisions and, you know, figure out what you need to do. What is your next step? Um, so now let's talk about some terminology. The first one is your click-through rate. This is the percentage of users that just click on your post, so this you can calculate this by taking the number of link clicks divided by the number of views. Like total views, number of people who look at it. Um, so you obviously want a high click-through rate for all these rates. You want a high one because who wouldn't? Next up is the conversion rate. This is the percentage of users who follow through a social post or ads call to action. Um, this could be, visiting the company's website, making a purchase, the thing that they want you to do through that post or whatever it is and you end up doing that contributes towards the conversion rate. Um, and the next step is the engagement rate. This one is probably one of the most important rates or just metrics that you want to have. This tells how much interaction a piece of social media content earns from followers. It's the percentage of users who engage with the post with the total number of views. This could be liking the post, commenting, sharing it with somebody else, things like that. Whenever you're on social media and you're liking a post or commenting, that goes towards whoever's profile it is, that goes towards their engagement rate. And you really want your content to engage your audience, really have them interacting. So you have a high engagement rate. You really want that. And then lastly is impressions. This is the number of time your content has been shown on people's feeds. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like going to the profile and clicking on the post itself. It could just be them looking at it and scrolling. They don't have to like it. They don't have to comment on it. They don't have to do anything. So they don't have to engage with the post for it to count as an impression. So you never know how many impressions you're going to get from a post. And I think a really good way to increase your impressions is by putting hashtags in, the captions. Um, on your like explore pages, you just kind of get random content that you just don't really see very often on your regular feed, but hashtags are a big way to get your impressions up because it can help you get a bigger audience and increase your impressions. Because who wouldn't want a lot of impressions? So next up is the benefits of social media analytics. Why you really want to pay attention to this stuff. Um, this can help you understand your audience. Who you really want to have your content be seen by, whether it's a certain gender, a certain age group, children, young adults, parents, senior citizens, college students, whatever. Um, this can really help you figure out ways to either change your content or keep it in the direction it's going if it's going towards the audience that you want it to be. This can help you create better content as well. Figure out where you're struggling and what needs to improve, or the things that you're just doing good at, and just being like, okay, we're doing really well with this form of content. Let's keep doing that. Or, okay, this wasn't doing very well. Maybe we shouldn't do this as much or at all. And kind of try to figure out new ways to create content. It's all about um, just problem solving, decision making, and sometimes even taking risks because you never know if it'll pay off or not. Um, and this will show what parts of your strategy are good and which parts are bad. Like I just said, like things you need to improve on, things that you could keep doing, and just taking risks. So yeah. Um, so next up, I have some charts and graphs that are seen a lot on dashboards and just different ways that they can be interpreted and things like that for people who don't really know anything about that kind of stuff or who are good at interpreting these kind of graphs because there are people like that. So the first one is the pie chart. You get to really kind of see things from in a whole perspective. So, for example, like this pie chart that I have, this talks about social media engagement on different platforms. So obviously, since Facebook takes a bigger area of the pie, it means that it has higher engagement. And, this can really help you figure out um, for example, using social media engagement, which platforms are the best ones that for your audience and which ones they interact with you more and which ones you don't have as much interaction on, but and it'll show, okay, let's say we have the most engagement on Instagram. That means, you should really put more content on Instagram. And let's say you don't have as much engagement on LinkedIn. So you're like, okay, um, maybe we don't need to put as much content on LinkedIn, but that could also mean maybe we could figure out ways to get more people to engage with our content on LinkedIn or whatever platform it is you're not doing as well on. So it you get to make those decisions, which is really nice. It gives you that freedom to make decisions. And then the next one is the bar chart. This one is really good for showing, metrics of especially like over time or whatever it may be. So, this one is what is the percentage of your digital ad spend going towards social media sites? And I mean, this one, shows, especially in recent times, that they're using more money to put, have ads on social media sites to get yourself out there on social media, which makes a lot of sense than in 2009 when you're not really doing it that much because social media wasn't as relevant back then. But bar bar charts are really good to look at those metrics in that kind of scale, being like, especially over time, and just seeing, you know, do you need to improve? Are you spending too much? Are you spending too little? But there's so many different ways that you can interpret bar charts and different ways you can use them. Um, some of that will be talked about in the dashboard section after this. And then lastly is the line chart. Line charts, pretty similar to bar charts. You really can kind of look at stuff over a period of time, but this is also really good for showing the kind of like the dips and the peaks and just kind of where you're plateauing during over the course of time. I think this one is good for really looking at that. Um, I think that the bar chart is better with looking at the numbers. This is looking at, the the changes. Um, so, especially on this one, you can see right at the end there is a huge drop, which obviously isn't good. You really don't want that. I mean, I don't know if there's really a way that a drop would be good in a line chart for social media, but you never know. So these are just 3 different charts that I found and thought they would be good to share examples for in terms of ways of interpreting them. And lastly, we have just interpreting dashboards. And if you don't know what a dashboard is basically just a plate. It's just a figure with all of your social media analytics in one place in an organized way, or just for you to look at. Um, this is where you will kind of interpret the stuff and make your decisions on whatever it may be on your social media page. So I have two different dashboards here because I think they both kind of have some things that I wanted to point out. Um, for the one on the left, this one really shows what the changes over the course of a month, and the bar chart with the Facebook followers. This one's a little different than over the course of a month because it shows it over a month, but then also over the course of a year, which is pretty interesting. It really shows how much you change over 2 different courses of time. So as you can tell, um, this company really increased their Facebook followers over the span of a year, which really means that they were providing enough content for them to reach new people, which is always good. You always want to build your following. You always want to increase it. If you end up, if you're realizing, oh, we're losing a bunch of followers, over a course of time, like you really just want to figure out, what is it that is causing that. And then just, there's also some basic statistics like how many just followers you have in general, how many total views you're getting, how many total likes, things like that. Um, the bottom right is a pie chart that has the top states, the number of Twitter followers in certain states, which ones have the most. And this can be used for different ways, like whether it's how many like um, how many followers are in different states, or what percentage is like the age of your following. Like, do you have more like college students, or are they more like parents or whatever? But this can be really good to really realize who your audience is. I think pie charts are really good for that. Um, so there's a lot of different things that dashboards are really good for. You can even have your insights. What are you wanting to find out? And then having all these different graphs on here can really help you answer the questions that you want to know. So then the one on the right is, again, social media performance, of course. Starts off with just social media followers. How many do you have at the time that this dashboard was made? Probably the most interesting part is the graphs in the middle. Um, it looks like this was taken over the span of a week. This one shows, engaged users How many did they have over the course of a week, and if it went up or down by a certain percentage, which is also which is very important to know. You really want to know. I mean, you want to know how many engaged users you have, but you also want to know, is it more than last week? Is it less than last week? And then, you know, figure out what you need to do if it's lower than the week before or the month before, whatever the scale is that you're doing. And then the next one is the total number of page impressions. How many people are looking at your post, regardless if they're liking it or commenting or whatever, you know, how many people are reviewing it? And under each of these, it shows a little line graph of over the course of time. Was it going up on a certain day? Was it going down? Things like that. And then, the overall percentage change from the week between this week and last week. Um, and then after that is the total page likes. As you can see, that it has gone down by, it looks like 33%, which obviously is not good. You really want to have as many likes as possible. You really like want to figure out ways to engage your audience on your social media posts. So doing whatever that may be, you really want to find out ways to engage your audience. And then lastly, which is probably one of the most important ones, I feel like, new page likes. How many new people are like liking or engaging with your posts, which you always want to figure out ways to expand your audience. You really want to find out who your target audience is, but you also want to figure out ways to bring in new people. Um, you that it's always important to continue to grow and continue to build your social media pages, whether that's coming up with new content or new ways to interact with your audience. Just you always want to have that number be more than it was the week before, the month before. Like, you always want that to keep increasing. So I believe that is all that I have. I really hope that you learned something from this if you don't know a lot about social media analytics, because it can be a very confusing thing sometimes, I feel like, even for me. But yeah, I really hope you learned something, and thank you for watching this section of the course.